Taipei. We're straight into the picks and bans for Game 4. And remember, if SKT win this, they are in the final versus Team Liquid tomorrow. If G2 win, they push us to Silver Scrapes and Game 5. We are already into picks and bans. Jarvan and Galio off the table for G2. Jason Akali taken away as a possible first pick on the side of SKT for G2.
Yeah, so listening to analysts, they were talking a lot about how scaling compositions haven't been working. I do think that G2 is trying to play to the fact that SKT has been often playing slow. That is kind of their MO, so they are trying to get advantages through scaling, but I don't think they need to do it in such an extreme manner. We saw in last game, Kai'Sa, Azir, Vladimir, you don't need scaling in every single lane. I want to see them stick with a similar strategy, but give a playmaker to Caps, put him on something where he can be roaming.
Yes.
That is very much how they were winning against SKT in group stage, and you need to give him the ability to be proactive on the map.
Rise first pick, Raz.
That'll do it for him, and I would love to see that on Caps just because Rise in the central point of the map, if he's alongside Jankos, who's been a little bit struggling. I mean, he's getting bullied, pushed on Raptors and Krugs. Essentially have him empowered off of he's not going to be able to get rek'sai, but Olaf would be a wonderful pick of him.
But how worried are we then? Of course, G2 knew this was coming because they left it open after the destruction in Game 3. Is it something that can be neutralized, the rek'sai, or do you think this is just another Clid game?
No, I think it can certainly be neutralized. You know, it's going to be about Jankos being able to actually track him. I do think if they draft some stronger lanes, it gives some more points of power for Jankos to play around.
Yes.
It's extremely hard, I think, to match an early game jungler like rek'sai when you're given 3 losing lanes. And that was an impossible situation that Jankos was put in game number 3. And now that you have something like Braum and Varus, this is already a point of power that you can be playing around on the map. If Jankos is able to grab an early game jungler that can match some of that power for rek'sai, regardless of what SKT drafts for their bottom lane, you can look to play 3v3 around bot side, which can give you dragon control and a way into the enemy jungle.
And so this is what I love about the fact that G2 held off their jungle pick into second phase. Because just based off the stronger lanes that you are referencing here, and if G2 get a good idea that they can put the Rise into the mid lane matchup, or just really track where the Sylas is going, then Jankos can go through anything. Like, one of the greatest picks into the rek'sai is also the Skarner. So if it comes to a point where he can just level 6 farm, then that's the best way to go.
Certainly is, and I do think this Tahm Kench is very much an answer actually to the Rise, less about the bot lane. Yes, it can be very strong into the Varus, but Tahm Kench makes side laning so difficult. Anytime you want to try to play to a split push win condition, which is very often what Rise is doing, you have to take in consideration not only the rek'sai now, but the Abyssal Voyage and the possibility of those 1v1s becoming 1v2s and even 1v3s.
Yeah, mobility has been so important throughout the entire tournament and also in this series, so a well-needed pickup from the side of SKT going into the second phase of bans.
Ban Kalista here. If I'm G2, you don't want to see it. It's been Teddy's best pick in the group stage, and it's been working wonderfully for him here.
I do think on the other side of things, though, if SKT were to go for something like a Kalista, it's not paired alongside an aggressive support. So I think that's something that G2 could try to work around. If you are playing Braum Varus into the Kalista plus Tahm Kench, that is much more of a defensive style, right?
Yes.
Kalista normally most successful when paired with things like the Galio or alongside a Thresh. So I think it's totally reasonable for them to leave it up, and likely going to be a more defensive option here. I think something like the Ashe would make sense. And this is something that is not only going to help have a safe bottom lane, it's an additional form of engage, and also critically, this will give Clid more of an edge in the jungle because you can use the Hawk Shot to track Jankos' pathing. So not only is he going up against the best player in the tournament, in my opinion, he's going up against a monstrous early game jungler, and he's going to be tracked by the Ashe.
There it goes, called by Raz. Skarner as the pickup here.
Wonderful. The one thing that I really need to see here, because whenever you're going up against an Ashe, when Ashe starts coming up around in the meta, once again, talking about the Hawk Shots coming through as the Gnar is going to be locked in, it's more so, it's so difficult if SKT have a winning top side of the map to ever farm top side, because that means that, like, you know, Tahm Kench, post 6, can find your way up top side along with the rek'sai. I want to see what we get in the early game from SKT.
Gnar spelled the demise of IG yesterday in the Shy's hands, also in a Game 4. What do we make of it here?
I mean, I think it's a pretty reasonable safe line pick when you're looking at things like Nico as well as the Kennen already taken off the table. Those are 2 of the most standard safe blind picks. So he is going to be able to grab this here. Going into Victor, I think is a relatively safe pick, but we'll see if Khan can take over because he did have counter pick and that should be his advantage.
Picks have come out now. We see the entire composition. Raz, what is your gut feeling as to how this game is going to go?
I love SKT's 2v2 through mid. Now, I know that coming into this, you look towards Rise and say that could be an easy gank through mid lane, but once again, Upskun Abduct coming in from Faker, and we already have seen how strong Clid is coming into this series. I expect strong early game ganks going up against them.
I think this is much more of a well-rounded composition from G2, honestly. I quite like it. They have a strong 2v2 bottom lane. Ryze has strong gank assist in mid lane, as well as really good scaling into those side lanes. And Skarner with Predator can have fairly early power in those ganks.
Yeah.
This is what we're playing for, like what we don't want to see if your G2 is just getting outplayed completely in the early game. Once again, I think both coaches can be happy with what they get on the Rift here with.
Yep, going to come down to how well I think they can control and contain Clid. It is definitely going to be a difficult job here for Jankos, but Skarner is certainly a very powerful farmer. If he can get to 6 on parity with Clid, he's going to be feeling very confident, I think, about his chances. And it's at that stage of the game that it does get pretty difficult, I think, for a lot of these SKT lanes that want to play aggressive, especially up on the top side. Something like the Victor can fall prey to those Skarner and Gnar attacks.
That's why I'm really concerned for the top side. Specifically, I know we've seen some bad Victor games. We've seen even worse Gnar games. And in this game, it's actually even harder for him to see engage points if he were to teleport into the fights, look for a Mega Gnar, because there's a lot of disengage here.
So many variables. This is it. Will SKT take it, or is G2 bringing us to Game 5? Let's take it away with our casters.
Thank you very much, and welcome back. 2 years ago, SK Telecom eliminated G2 Esports from the MSI Finals in Brazil with a scoreline of 3-1. Now in 2019, on the other side of the planet, in Taipei, SKT are on the verge of eliminating G2 Esports 3-1 in the semi-final and advancing to a showdown with Team Liquid. We've seen the draft, we've seen a little bit of setup in the top half of the map, and this is a different look for G2. Because Jankos will get caught up by a small stump, but not much more than that.
So the thing that Papa Smithy and I were talking a little bit about was scaling for both these teams. And the one thing that we agree on is that G2 have very strong side lanes later on into the game. I think that it will be harder for SKT to match them, given that they will be playing up against a Gnar and a Ryze. Two are actually surprisingly strong side laners that, especially the Gnar, I think can hold his own very well against a champion like the Sylas. And I think Ryze is always going to do very well into the both. So in terms of that point in the game, I do think G2 has the edge. My big question mark comes around, can Clid still have the same early game influence that he had last time around?
I just feel there's a lot of conditionals about where this game is going based on the game state and who starts snowballing, which of course is very familiar analysis for how this tournament has gone. SKT don't have much of a front line. Victor is the last pick to try to get a more comfortable laning matchup into the Gnar rather than a counter pick in the mid lane, for example. Does mean that I think they default into 4-1 a lot, but to me it's much more about the utility of Ashe and Tahm Kench together and how much they can do post-6.
I completely agree, and already in this early game, this Ashe Tahm Kench has gained priority in the lane because they did not give a pull to their jungler. You can see Clid actually starting on his red, going up towards Krugs, very standard on a rek'sai because of how quickly she can clear that camp out, and then likely she'll move in towards the Scuttle Crab, which Jankos is immediately trying to answer already.
All right, Jankos making his way up. He's playing the Skarner, which we saw Smithy's play yesterday. And of course, Wonder playing the Gnar, which we saw out of the Shy. I wonder if any of those scrim partners has anything to do with that. It's the first time we've seen Jankos on that Skarner all year long, and he will get some time on that Scuttle Crab alone as Teddy Amata push into the tower.
Faker just around the corner, putting some doubt into Caps' mind. The deep vision that we had the observers highlight shows you why Teddy and Mato were able to push out at level 1. We've criticized a lot of Tahm Kench lanes for losing the lane, losing a flash at level 1. Barrett's Tahm Kench, for example, has had that happen multiple times. But because Jankos has been tracked so extensively, they've had lane control on the bot side, pathing is predictable, and Clid is around to make something happen.
Oh, I hate that sentence, Papa Smithy. Clid is around every single time he steps forward in games 1, 3, and now he seems to find a way an advantage. This time the ward, though, from G2 Esports will give Cap some additional information, and he doesn't overstep.
He actually pathed forwards and backwards and waited to see if he could read anything in Caps' movement, and then just said, okay, I'm just going to push the wave and come through very obviously. So, of course, the alpha move will get him the bot side stuff.
So while Clid has been trying to set up for an early game gank, Jankos has been prioritizing on farming his jungle. He's managed to clear out a multitude of camps right now, and he's hanging around the top side of the map where Khan currently has no vision. Wonder is posturing aggressively, which should give some indication that a jungler may be near, and here they go.
All right, watch the Gnar bot. Boomerang Blade comes out. Gnar bot starting to charge. That's a flash already. Jankos will be happy with that and a low investment for G2.
Notice how Khan flashes the E, because he knows that if he flashes after that E has landed, then it means that Jankos can immediately follow up with a stun and set it for a potential follow-up from Wonder. So good awareness there from Khan.
Ooh, good damage from Faker just outside the tower range. That's dancing on the edge of safety. Caps ends up coming away worse for wear, but very good reply. Rune Prison into the Q and E combo, and they end up about even, but Faker's kit has sustained, Caps does not.
And the dancing moves only make it an even trade, doesn't make an overwhelming winning trade from Faker. If he had stood to attention for all of that damage, would have taken a lot more punishment. The overextension this time is with a ward, but with Predator can come in fast.
All right, here comes Jankos. Remember, no flash, but this is Gnar that is tired. Flash forward through the gravity field. That's going to be the end-up cost, and First Blood conceded, given to Wonder.
Easy kill picked up for the top side for G2. Even through a ward, there is very little that Khan can do because of how well Wonder throws the lane towards his side of the map. Victor struggles to clear early, and he can only use his death rate, which ends up just naturally pushing. So really good stuff there from Wonder and Jankos working to get an early lead for G2. And remember what we said, Quickshot, teams with the early leads have so far in this series won the game.
All right, that's the first step towards a lead big enough for me to believe, right? Wonder obviously First Blood, teleport is available to him. He hasn't left the lane yet. And we saw Jankos just wiggling through mid lane, showing Faker's presence. And now first one back to lane, Tia plus Sapphire Crystal for Caps.
And when the Victor dies once, it often leads to a cavalcade of those. Remember, Skarner Ultimate will be available when Flash is still down from Khan. Could trying to solo out this objective. Jankos coming up.
Yeah, look at the minimap though. Marta and Teddy have already left lane, but Faker wasn't there. Now the teleport's starting to channel. It's Faker that's joining the fight. Klid is very, very low, and Faker is maybe stuck in the pit. But who's stuck with who? Wonder's recalling first. He's got teleport available. That's a Wonder TP coming into the fight. Marta's used Cleanse and Flash to safety. G2 Esports brute force their way onto the Ocean Drake. Blast Cone will defy any potential kills, and Wonder not close to 6. No further follow-up. G2 get the Dragon.
Yeah, love to see them walk up for the contestant. They understood that they had extra resources like Wonder's teleport to not give over an Ocean Drake, which would have been so welcome for champions like the Victor. Faker on the exit here. He's going to be chased down by multiple members.
All right, Realm Warp will deliver Caps. Flash forward into Rune Prison. They get the flash from Faker. It ends up being a trade of summoners 1-for-1.
And now it's G2 who are on the aggressive in this early game. They're the ones finding a lot of these picks, and while they don't convert them into kills, they're converting them into objectives. And note how Wonder, he had already pushed the wave underneath the top tower, so even though he TPs down, he doesn't actually lose that much for making this roam happen. And Khan is just slowly closing that gap that he found himself early on.
He has the information to go for a backstop here, but won't do that. Interestingly, Klid has changed his keystone this game. It is not Halo Blade, it is Conqueror. And I think that's because of the heads-up matchup against the Skarner. Very rarely can you just unload your entire Q and then ult as the rek'sai in a game state against the Skarner, because you'll just be ulted by the Skarner and taken down with a full damage build. So for the extended brawling and the sustain options it provides, he's gone a different route.
You notice the differences in the runestones, and I'm noticing the differences in the lanes right now is Faker and Teddy both had the waves set up beautifully, given that after that small Drake exchange, the waves were slowly pushing in favor, and here is Jankos and Klid.
All right, keep an eye on Faker. He's got himself a Gnar on that hijacked ultimate. Caps and Mickey step forward. Winter's Bite finds a target, but as Mata approaches as well, it's not a 3v3 that G2 are willing to contest right now. A lot of early game damage in that Silas and rek'sai combo.
I thought that G2 would actually go for that fight, given that Mickey was closer to the fight than Mata was, but clearly Caps and the squad saying, you know what, we have no summoner spells, Jankos isn't level 6 yet, we don't need to force this fight, so why bother? We're in a pretty good spot in this early game, let's just play it a little bit safer and wait for another opportunity later on.
Perfect lane state for Khan, but he might actually just be Nard for damage here.
He will indeed, gets Nard against the wall. There's the Chaos Storm down, there's an Impale though onto Mata, remember, flashless. Not going to be able to escape. Caps gets the kill, but all of a sudden Wonder's in trouble. He gets jumped on. We didn't see Klid joining the fight, but he's got that flash on cooldown. 2v1 in the top lane.
So both junglers, they hit that level 6 mark, and they look for a play. Jankos finds one in the bottom river. Klid finds one in the top lane. So this allows Khan to get back into the game a little bit more, but it also starts to snowball for Caps, who's now 1-0 on the right.
And the flow-on effect is on the Ashe, who can't actually enter lane. There was the Spire taken. That was in view of both of them. Tahm Kench not there. They need the Tahm Kench in the lane to actually walk up.
All right, take a look at this. Chain of Corruption comes up. That's flash for flash. Teddy escapes with his life. The first turret plate falls. While this is going on, Clid is inside the blue buff jungle of G2 Esports, and Jankos Impale's not available, but the Fracture and the Crystal Slashes are going to do so much work, especially with that Braum passive. Teddy and Mata, though, they make it back to the tower alive.
And notice that Clid is still in the top jungle, and G2 have full information of this because of that ward, which means they can play extremely aggressively underneath this tower without any risk of a counter game.
But the good news for SKT is there's not enough threat onto the duo here to stop the duo lane being proxied out of lane like we saw Sona Tarek when SKT played it, or the Calista Braum shenanigans they pulled against TL. So they're able to actually re-enter lane and not lose multiple minion waves and not lose the 10 or so CS lead that Ash has had this game over Val.
So we'll have a look back and we'll see Mata as he gets caught out of position. I believe Jankos procs the Predator here, as Mata is just trying to clear out the wards, but as you guys notice on the minimap, he didn't have priority anywhere. The Ash was stuck underneath the tower. Silas on the Faker was coming down, but it wasn't enough. Meanwhile, while all that was going on, Wonder was dying top.
And we had just mentioned how Khan had the lane in a really great spot, just frozen under his turret before his flash came up. That also meant perfect time for Clid to walk up when Nast tried to break the freeze.
And even though Wonder found himself with the first blood, there's actually only a 100 gold difference between the two top laners now. And the gold is actually very even between the two teams as they look for a play on the curve.
Enchanted Crystal Arrow comes down. Clid is delivered with Mata into the bottom lane. No flash for Perks. Chain of Corruption's on cooldown as well. And with the Devour, as well as the Void Rush, it's easy. That was such a beautiful setup.
Yeah, lovely set-piece play. Long distance from downtown Ash ultimate on the exact recall spot. It's going to be a pause, but from downtown nature there, that was awesome to watch.
Yeah, really well set up from the side of SKT. As you rightly said, a really good arrow into a Tahm Kench flank. Everything seemed to come together for SKT to set up that play and find a beautiful pick onto Perks. And this will, again, continue to close the early game gold gap. And whereas so far throughout the series, the team that kind of started with the gold lead kind of ran away with it, it feels like SKT and G2 are matching each other in the early stages of play.
By conventional logic, as you've mentioned, just off the top of my head, Game 1, SKT had around a 6,000 gold advantage. Game 2, G2 had around a 4,000 gold advantage. In Game 3, SKT significant as well. This is the closest that we've seen these teams match. But what I love about this particular setup is when you see that Abyssal Voyage from Tahm Kench, the Enchanted Crystal Arrow from Ash, and Clid being delivered, the point man from the previous wins in the series, that is such an exciting set for SKT to play with.
And it's not just a solo lead, it's, as you say, the 1, 2, 3 of the downtown into the Abyssal Voyage. So it's not something that Clid is able to manufacture on his own. In fact, this has been Jankos who's been making the moves even before his ultimate was available. Every Predator so far has been a successful game.
Yeah, it certainly has. And the question is, can he continue to find these picks? Because the bot lane of G2 is struggling right now. They fell at an early deficit, not because they made any real mistakes, but because that dragon fight was so extended, they ended up getting delayed and the wave got set up in an unfavorable situation. So here we see the arrow. The pings come out actually in darkness. They just have a rough idea of where he is, and they set up the play. And at this point, they're like, oh, he's fine. Mickey can finish clearing out this ward. But then here comes the Tahm Kench ultimate to set everything up.
What is it about Korean Ash players on the international stage? No one will forget. Prey's heroics in the 2016 World Championship, those semifinals, will never be forgotten. Shout out to Prey, who of course retired over the course of the last LCK split. But Teddy doing him proud. Nice move by SKT.
Unbelievable. And let's see what it'll turn into. Obviously, we do still have the technical pause. We'll give you guys an update as soon as I hear a little bit more information. But just to put some numbers to it, as I mentioned, 5,000 difference in Game 1, 4,000 Game 2, 5,000 Game 3. We're now at 220 gold difference at around 10-ish minutes in game. So we'll keep a closer eye on that. But what I do like is it's a different style of team composition, really on both sides of the Rift. And it'll come down to execution of whether or not either of these teams can get ahead and then start to play those side lanes as you've already mentioned.
Well, that's the thing. You say it's a little different, but then I would challenge that with this feels very much more like the most G2 that we've seen so far throughout this series, where you have very obvious 1-3-1 comp. Jankos is the primary early game playmaker, and the whole goal is to get these two solo laners to a point where they can be uncontested towards the side lane. Meanwhile, for SKT, it's very much, again, relying on Clid to find them an early advantage and then kind of look for picks and then control the map. And so far, it feels like both teams are kind of working towards their win conditions, which is why we have such an even game.
Definitely 1-3-1 identity at the core for SKT as well, but what I see is the Victor's ability to transfer any sort of advantage to a team fight pales in comparison to a team fight starter like the Gnar. So I feel like there'll be many more conditional moves in the late game as SKT try to work things out, especially when Victor's flash is down. Whereas I agree that G2 have more flexibility in how they set up their 1-3-1.
I'm always just a little bit pessimistic when I see a Gnar. Because a Gnar at maximum potential that hits 50-60% rage, teleports in, gets the conversion, after 1 or 2 autos, it looks beautiful. But then if that Gnar is a little bit tired and cannot use the Mega Gnar in any of the CC, I know that these, like Wonder especially, should be able to do it, but that high variance in a team that already has high variance is a little nerve-wracking in what could be the deciding game.
The Gnar player that always comes to mind in Europe is Vizicachi. He was the guy that always made those amazing Gnar ultimates that could swing a game like instantly. In particular, that one against TSM at Rift Rivals. Like, he was a guy that was a sole part of helping that team come through, and that kind of talks about that potential, right? That ultimate can be used to turn a losing fight into a winning one if it just hits the right point. And you imagine, pair that up with a Rise and a corrupting ultimate. From Corrupting Ultimate, whatever the ultimate is called.
Chain of Corruption.
Chain of Corruption, I was close. Like, there's a lot of crowd control there that can just mitigate all of the options from the side of SKT.
And what might allay your fears a little bit is if you give kind of a fixed budget, let's say 4,000, 5,000 gold to Gnar and to Victor, I would rely on the Gnar to run down the Victor much more than conventional logic. If you're ahead on Victor, yes, you can explode a mini Gnar. But if you think about how many matchups we had in the past, like Gnar versus Hecarim, Gnar versus Sylas could be the side lane matchup here, the chase potential is so huge that from a war of attrition, I'd take Gnar more often than not.
So here we just see the picks playing out once again as both teams traded kill for kill. But it's interesting that you mention that, because the thing that I always think about when I think of Victor is how well he actually scales with cooldown reduction. And his Q actually gets onto like a 3-second cooldown towards the late game once you're like at 3 items, which means that the spammability of that gives you so much extra mobility that I think that around, as you said, a mini Gnar, it can actually be very valuable.
But you know what's on a very short cooldown? Frozen Mallet.
That's true. That's also very
That's
true.
the fun kind of duality of those two things there is that, again, it does swing based on items, but so far this game has been pick tool, successful gank, pick tool, successful gank on both sides. So it kind of feels like the swing moment might be when one global move comes off, the other one is thwarted, and just the ripple effect that can have on the map control around what has so far been just team deathmatch on different sides of the map.
Got it. Well, just so you guys know, the players, they did report an issue in game. It is being investigated. We'll share as and when we have updates. But for the time being, G2 Esports, their backs are against the wall. They are down 2-1 in the series. It is an even game as we're entering the 10 to 20 minute sort of laning phase. And despite a few turret plates falling here and there, no clear advantage yet. And that's different to the 3 previous games where SKT or G2, leapt out of the gates, got that advantage, and then I think you summarized it quite well, suffocated their opponents as the time ran on.
And so if I was going to hand out an award for the little that we've seen here and what has been different from the previous games, it'd be Jankos' performance. This has not been a Clid-dominated early game. I think Jankos pre-6 got a successful gank up top. They were able to engineer the downfall of the Victor a couple of times. So I want to recognize the European jungler who's had very much a tournament at an expected level so far, but we've been waiting for him to pop off. And this could potentially be that game because he's actually been around the map more than you would give respect to Ascana this early.
And while we're giving respect to Jankos, we have to keep reminding viewers how amazing Clid has been just throughout this entire tournament. Like, the discussion already started coming into playoffs around him being the MVP candidate potentially because of how consistent he has been even in SKT's losses. And he's just such a talented jungler that brings something so unique to this SKT roster that I think we've rarely ever seen from them in the past. And the fact that he can single-handedly get them such massive advantages in the early game should really show how talented and intelligent he is as a jungler and how skilled he is at enabling and potentially reestablishing the SKT dynasty.
But I want to open the conversation a little bit to the fact that Haru is here as the jungle sub. Really not expected to play. SKT have only run a 5-man roster all season. They've never tried any other players. I believe that having another jungler with international experience and the amount of prep that goes in, some of it for sure is his own jungle instincts, but just the fact that he's always on that right quadrant of the map, I suspect that the amount of prep they're putting into the jungle start is certainly paying off in the games we've seen so far. This would be the 14th they've played so far at MSI 2019.
Yeah, I agree. And the whole SKT roster kind of has slowly been getting better as the tournament goes as the tournament progresses, and again, like you have to give a lot of props to the amount of prep and kind of backstage staff that does come into what has been known as a very successful organization.
And especially when the organization's had to rebuild. I know we have said this a few times, but after 2018, where SKT failed to make it to international play, failed to help defend LCK's honor on the international stages, where they failed to win any of the big international events, this not only would be redemption for the region, but for the team that is the most winningest team in League of Legends.
And it's one of those kind of interesting points where when SKT's at the tournament, the stakes seem higher just because of the nameplates, just because Faker is there, rookie put forward. That same sentiment, I think everyone knows what it means to beat SKT. And maybe last year that was happening a lot on the domestic front, but it never came to the international orgs that had that long-standing rivalry with SKT. So for them to come back, be relevant, and right now be in a position to potentially take the tournament just shows that the SKT name is there to try to fight for that old legacy.
I love that you mentioned names when, honestly, they have a rivalry with an entire continent. Europe against SKT has never been favorable for Europe.
Are we sure it's a rivalry that's two-sided?
Yeah, like that's the debate, right? But you think about it, 2015 MSI, Fnatic went to all 5 games. They lost in the 5th. There was then the series against G2 and SKT, where you ended up having the final, which ended up going 3-1. And then there was, of course, the Misfits versus SKT series, which again went to 5 games. And SKT has thwarted many of the hopes and dreams of many European fans.
So you're saying 5 games is a chance?
I'm saying there's a chance.
Unfortunately, G2's only ever gone 3-1 against this team. So let's see if they can not only defy history to be the first time G2 Esports can go 5 games against SK Telecom, but also put themselves one Nexus away from making history for an EU vs NA final. Now that all starts with G2 winning this game and getting that deciding match. And for the time being, we are back in game. As you've noticed, plus 250 odd gold in favor of G2 Esports as we get to 11 minutes. The first few backs have been completed. And you can see Mickey and Yankos starting to put some pressure on this bottom lane. I think we're about 3-ish. No, the Dragon is alive, correction. And it is just pushing Teddy away. And as you've noticed, G2, they put a lot of pressure on this bottom lane.
They're trying to re-invade SKT to allow Teddy to enter. Here's the ult.
All right, the Devour comes out, and Pale was saved, so not sure Yankos wanted to hit that target while TK was so nearby. Teleport coming into the bottom lane. Faker gets turned on. All 5 members of G2 have already started to fight. Clid goes forward, he unburrows, gets a knock-up onto Yankos, but the piercing arrow picks up the kill. Faker's in trouble. He's caught inside the blue buff. It's a double kill for Perks, and now Khan is on the wrong side of the rift. Gravity Field will buy some time, but he's managed to make it back to Teddy Amata.
SKT over pursue and re-engage even though Khan is in no position to help. He teleports down, he only gets a small amount of poke onto Yankos. This control of the Drake has been the one advantage that G2 have maintained in the first 12 minutes of the game.
And what was great here for G2 was how they found the collapse onto Faker. Initially, it looked like G2 were the ones in a dangerous situation, as here you can see they focus their attention onto Clid. They're committing deep into the enemy jungle, but a good flash consumed from Mata saves the jungler. Now, they have the potential TP coming out from Khan from behind. You then have Faker with the collapse. But notice how G2 immediately say, let's go on to Faker, let's shut him down, while Perks lands a good ultimate, and now the fight is split apart. 2v2 and 2 versus 3. And Arrow actually interrupts Caps, Mickey, and Perks from taking the Realm Warp over, which then actually keeps them on that side to secure the kill on the
And I love that you point out that moment, because the Hunters became the hunted the moment they made the correct turn, and that just meant that Khan was woefully out of position.
Now, when I saw Mata's flash, his flash cleansed instantly. I didn't see whether or not Yankos caught him on the stun, but it didn't matter, and his Devour was one of those very powerful tools into the Impale from Skarner. Yankos is immediately going to summon the Rift Herald in the bottom lane. G2 have got themselves a 1,000 gold advantage, and I think with that empowered charge, Perks will be the recipient of this last plate and the tower gold. First blood secured, 2 dragons, 4 kills to 2, and it is a very, very strong start here for G2 Esports.
Trying to play both sides of the map. Caps teleported down, didn't end up being needed, but now Clid is top side and SKT making a reverse play.
All right, Wonder's going to be in trouble. 4 members stack, but the teleport from Caps, Perks, is going to be enough to save the day. Now Yankos stepping forward, Impale's available. He needs to find a target. The flash is countered by a flash reply by SK Telecom. Faker and Clid are running. The chain of corruption was spreading. Khan got locked down in place. Now Mickey steps forward. Khan buys a little bit of time with that stopwatch, for the kill is secured by Caps. Now Faker stepping forward as Teddy did not teleport, did not ultimate, and did not get involved.
And G2, after the pause, go from a 250 gold lead to a 2,500 gold lead. Beautiful stuff, constantly punishing these small plays that SKT tried to make.
And 1,800 gold of that lead, Vedius, is in Perks' back pocket. He's got 6,100 gold to the 4,300 of Teddy. Caps is up around 600 over Faker. So very, very strong turnaround. And those proactive plays, those skirmishes and team fights that helped G2 get to this point.
It's been a game of inches. The chess pieces just being slightly better piloted by G2 in the early game, but across the entire map rather than just in a single lane. The utility from Teddy and Mata hasn't been utilized outside of the from downtown Ash arrow before the pause. And G2 continue to push up. And SKT, the quadrants they're safe in, get smaller and smaller.
So the gold lead is healthy, 2,500. G2 have made multiple proactive plays that have worked in their favor. And they turn their attention to now as the lanes have swapped. Chain of Corruption's on cooldown. Mickey and Perks are stepping forward like they want to go, and that's because Jankos is running up. Predator Caps is here with Realm Warp as well. Oh, who's going to take the Realm Warp? Perks just misses it. Not in range, may not matter anyway. Mata doesn't have Flash available. He's the next target. Impale brings the Catfish backwards. And G2 Esports find 2 kills. They're going to lose the middle tower, potentially, and they can reply in top.
Looks like G2 just have it out for the duo of Teddy and Mata. They do not want this duo to get ahead. They want to punish the Tahm Kench as much as possible. And I loved at the end of that replay, Mata, for the first time in this game, says, you know what, I can't save you. I'm out for myself. I gotta go.
And you're seeing Caps outroam Faker this time around. It's being super proactive, dodging lane. 130 CS at 15.5 is low by his standards, but he's just being that extra man to guarantee objectives.
So you can see here, Mata and Teddy. Teddy does have the flash, but he doesn't see the point in using it. The collapse comes in from the rest of the team. He thinks he can get the safety from Mata, but Mata realizes there's nowhere I can take you. There's nothing I can do, but he realizes too late, and then the collapse comes out from the rest of G2.
For anybody that has been watching the entirety of the series, at the beginning of the showdown on Countdown, we talked about who pilots Rise better. Faker is the Rise. There are movies made of him. The skin that Caps is using belongs to Faker. But the way that Caps plays the silence helps the rest of his team. 3-0-3. This is how G2 have unlocked many victories.
The only small food for thought that SKT can talk about is keeping up Flash on Teddy, having a Victor. Their wave clear in this game state is superior to what we saw from G2 in the previous game. So they are able to stall out, and the longer they can keep outer turrets up, the more chance they have to try to inch their way back into a game that right now, G2 is controlling handedly.
And the one thing I will say is while G2 tried to split up the map, remember the SKT still have this strong pick potential of the Ashe Tahm Kench duo, where the arrow lands and then Tahm Kench brings the target in to potentially look for a pick.
All right, Caps will sidestep the arrow for now. Realm Warp starts. He needs to dodge the CC, and he does so. 3-0-3, manages to get that tower, and all of a sudden G2 pushing. By the way, looking at Perks, he's got the Rage Blade and Blade of the Ruin King completed. Caps may be doing some tactical inting. Let's find out. Rune Prison goes down, Spellbox as well. Faker manages to steal the Realm Warp, but he's the one that's in trouble. Realm Warp will complete because Rune Prison was on cooldown. And while G2 was pushing the bottom lane, Teleport to save Caps at least secures the Dragon.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think Wonder needed to TP in there. I think Caps was pretty happy in that 1 versus 2. But Jankos, they're looking for this 2 in the mid lane.
All right, Devour goes out, and unfortunately Jankos decides not to flash. It would have been a very juicy double Impale. Holds on to it for now. 5 plates to 1. The mid tower is now the focus for G2.
Hard to take down, though, and Victor was able to wave clear in bot. It feels like Drake is a free win condition for G2 this game. SKT has had no control of the bottom quadrant of this game ever since their first Drake start very early was thwarted by a TP down from Gnar. So for now at least, SKT don't lose mid lane outer turret. But coming on 20 minutes, it feels like SKT and G2 with so much overlap in the comps, G2 in a very comfortable spot.
Very comfortable indeed. 2 items being picked up for Caps and for Perks. Caps going for the Spellbinder to complement his phase rush. He's going to be 1 speedy boy.
It's catch build. This is very much focused on getting that first Rune Prison or first empowered Q down. And from there, Skarner and the rest of the team can follow in tow. So the catch damage on the side of the Rise, G2 invading, they'd love red side control.
You need to get your vroom vrooms ready, quick shot, because you've got the Predator on the Skarner, you've got the speedy stuff on the Rise. Everyone is going to be looking to go quick as they try to catch out SKT.
I cannot wait. Quick vroom engage. 5,000 gold lead for G2 Esports. Mata in this engage, by the way, sitting on that QSS. That's a flash impale. Khan will get devoured though. Not going to get killed just yet. Chain of Corruption has already been used. Here comes Wonder. He eats an enchanted crystal arrow to the face, and Fake has been able to join the fray. 5 members of G2 trying to push forward, but the minion wave is getting obliterated. Oh! Massive! Manages to steal the Gnaw. Faker turns around. He hijacks G2's chances. Listen to that crowd as SKT turn it around.
That was absolutely insane from Faker. That was the perfect opportunity, and he capitalized on it. Beautiful stuff from him as he defends the Tier 1 tower.
I was watching the exhausted Gnar, wasn't ready for Faker's Gnar ultimate. Such a conditional most of the time. Faker pushes out. That's, again, a lot of time bought by SKT.
Not over yet. SKT are going to continue the pressure. 3 members pushing into the top lane. SKT do not have any towers yet, but this should be unlocked. And Faker wasn't able to get the one in the mid lane. Yes, that's a few kills on the board. SKT are still down 3,500 gold. But my word, that makes you a little nervous if you're an EU fan. Beautiful, beautiful play from Faker.
Faker, playmaker. That song, that tune, that rhyme was written for him because of the number of things that he has done just like this. And we can see the siege is being set up by G2. They have top lane pushed in, they have bot lane pushed in. Everything looks great for them, and G2's like, right, let's find this quick pick onto Khan, but then Mata comes in for the save once again.
And with the QSS can walk up that aggressive with 2 cleanse effects, the re-engage starts, you think, okay, we're just going to back away from here, no harm, no foul. Faker hasn't hijacked an ability just yet. Sees Wander, rolls in, 5-man Gnar ultimate. It doesn't win them the game, but I'm sure we'll track back if SKT take down the series 3-1. And remember that Faker play.
And that hijack was so close to catching Mickey's Swarm instead, and how different that could have looked if it was a different ultimate. Instead, it works out, and that means G2 a little bit nervous as they go into the fight. Look at the damage from Faker.
Potential of Silas, always something to note. G2 once again Staunted, they desperately want this mid lane out of turret, and they might catch Khan.
All right, Khan is being run down. Impale will bring him backwards, but at what cost? Mickey's Chain of Corruption, or Glacial Fissure rather, goes down. There's at least 1 for 1. Cleave goes down as Perks is obliterated. That's a stolen Impale. Faker pulls one backwards. That's Caps down. It's all a wonder. Mickey's running for his life. Gets a tongue lashing, and that's slowed down. No Devour comes up yet, but the Abyssal Voyage will deliver on the backside. Faker decides to re-engage. Now Jankos trying to push forward using those crystal slashes. Manages to get at least a little bit of a stun, but it won't be enough. Wonder's about to gnaw out, but I don't know if he wants to fight. Can hop over the wall. Flash is available as well. G2 are losing fights!
And it's Faker that is determining the outcome of it every single time. This time he hijacks the Skarner ultimate to drag Caps underneath the tower and secure the kill onto the biggest damage dealer that G2 has right now. Beautiful stuff from SKT as they claw their way back into this game.
During draft, Faker looked at his PC and said, I feel a disturbance in the force. People are saying Clid is the best player on the team. And he's trying to shut that theory down.
And it started off here, if you notice, with a 2-for-1. They had already killed the Victor off screen, and then it's a 1-for-1. Clid goes down to 2-for-1 overall. But notice what happens when the Skarner ult kills Rise. They're out of damage. You see some of your worries, quick shot, in that Wonder has no role in the rest of the fight. They're just chasing down for whatever free kills they can get.
Yeah, you said it, Papa Smithy, and the interrupt comes out on the Tom Kench ultimate, but it doesn't matter. Trying to escape from an Ashe and a Silas with these rotations, there's very little that they can do. But again, G2 trying to siege onto this mid-tier 1.
All right, it's a 3,000 gold lead for G2 still, but it does not feel like it matters. The Mountain Drake is being started. SKT have felt the priority from G2. Mountain Drake should go down. The Ashe Arrow will tag out Mickey. Mickey's going to get in trouble. No, and just to use the stopwatch for now. Caps is going to be able to help out Jankos to secure the Dragon. Now they're backing away. Mickey's gone down. 4v5 at best. Realm Warp starts to channel. Not going to get interrupted. G2 get the Baron for Mickey's life, but SK Telecom are on the hunt for blood.
And you just see that Wonder gets the transformation that time, but it's so hard to set up Realm Warp, outplays, and also a Gnar bar in the perfect spot. SKT, despite winning so many skirmishes in a row, still don't have one turret at the 23-minute mark.
And G2, they're holding on to their 3,000 gold lead, but you can see the SKT refuse to go down without a fight. They are matching G2 in the early game. They brought the kill difference to 9-8. And now we need to see these QSSs start coming out from both these teams. The Skarner ultimate, the Varus ultimate, the Ashe ultimate, the potential steals from the Sylas mean that QSS is going to be a very important item in this game.
And when the standing gold goes down on this turret lead, if it ever is closed right now 2-0, we're basically at an even gold game as well, quick shot. So this one team fight, this really huge late game fight that decides it, I think we're set up for it.
This is the closest game we've had this series. They have traded back and forth, and despite the metrics implying G2 are in the lead, there's a lot of power to SKT's comp. And the one thing that I do think is a benefit for G2, 4 Elemental Drakes under their belt. Mountain coming up means that Elder Dragon buff is going to be a juicy, juicy target.
This
Teleport
TP is,
being channeled. All of a sudden, the Devour and the Impale has already been used. The teleport completes. SK Telecom have got caught out. G2 did not hesitate the moment that summoner was used. Jankos escapes with his life for a few seconds. Faker unable to find the kill. Wonder arrives as well. The tower goes down. The kill onto Teddy. And G2, do they fancy themselves Baron?
Big mistake from Teddy, teleporting onto an already almost dead turret as G2 walked up. They're certainly going to set up around it and see what they can get.
Look at the Narbar. Wonder's still got Flash and his ultimate available. Clid is not here yet. He has been brought in with the Abyssal Voyage. This is going to be a problem. Baron's being melted, but Clid can't get in. This is close. Managed to secure it. Capsa picks it up. Faker is not done. He's got himself a Mega Gnar ulti. Here comes Wonder. Gnar into the wall. Into the crunch. The wallop. Faker gets a reply, but it doesn't matter. 5-man party in the chicken camp. And SKT are running for their lives. Clid escapes, but he's the only one.
And G2 finally secured themselves the Baron and put themselves in a much more commanding position. Faker has been trying so hard to turn these fights around, but the one time he can't do it, G2 take everything.
Teddy's TP started the dominoes and they crashed down with a G2 Baron. And now SKT have to go back to the early game. They have to play the waiting game again, but against Realm Warp, against Baron, and 3-lane push.
It feels like a split-second decision cost so much. That was at the mid lane that led to this fight.
And this is the first big Wonder ultimate that we get to see this game. Faker tries to get the shield out. Look, he even tries to steal the Gnar ultimate so that he can turn it around, but just a little too slow on the plate, and he cannot convert it. Clid, he's forced to leave his support behind as Marta gets chased down, and G2 walk away as a very happy team.
Well, one G2 teamfight win away from a game 5, from Silver Scrapes, from everything that represents. Because with the Baron buff, they can crash through the game. You saw how quickly they deleted Baron.
7,500 gold up. 90 seconds to the next dragon. We've got 3 or 4 items being picked up from multiple members of G2 Esports, so this feels like a very similar game to many of the previous in this series. The team that gets ahead in the early game starts to fly. There's still 2 minutes left on Baron, and a 4,300 gold Baron power play. That is ginormous. And G2 aren't done yet. They want to continue pushing those numbers even higher.
It's now a 5-turret to 0 advantage. SKT, one more pick to come.
All right, Jankos decides not to overchase. Threw down the Predator, looking for the engagement. They've just been the Righteous Glory, in fact. Take a look at Faker. He's got the Mega Gnar once again.
Fool me once, fool me twice. Perhaps not the third time.
And third time's the charm, right? Because mid lane 1 was decisive, helped SKT win. River, not so much. Now we need to see what SKT can do against the Siege.
Wonder now moving into the bot lane, and the 1-3-1 can now be properly set up from the side of G2. There's still a minute left on the Baron, and with all 3 waves crashing in, SKT should be forced to give up at least one of these Nexus towers.
Watching the push in here, they can play the patient game that has evaded some of our other great 1-3-1 teams. Single Mountain Drake, another one to come up, and SKT can only defend in so many places.
Yeah, definitely the case. Nikki and Perks just waiting the wings. I wondered if they fancied like a Chain of Corruption engage, but 45 seconds on Baron. Snini, 5,400 gold and the power play. Mountain Drake is available, by the way. Will come up right now. Unfortunately, Ash Arrow will catch out Yankos, but take a look at Caps. He almost blows up Khan. Now he goes golden thanks to the Hourglass. Devour will buy some time. Yankos steps forward. Chain of Corruption starts to spread. Here comes Faker. The Nars decent, but maybe not enough. Mickey joins the fray. He's going to step forward. All of a sudden, it's Mata that's down, but they've got perks. Somehow Clid manages to find him. Mickey's ultimate knocks up Faker in the air. It ends up being a 1-for-3 in favor of G2.
G2 can still be happy off the back of this. There are only 2 members dead on the side of SKT, so they've all tried to hold the line. The wave clear from the Victor is still there. Teddy is up and alive as well.
The Realm Warp in combat was big too. It stopped Teddy from having 3 autos onto multiple members, and G2 want to wreck the base.
They absolutely do. Top lane inhibitor is down. The turret falls in the bottom lane. The inhibitor is a few seconds away. 20 seconds for Faker, 5 for Mata, and G2 Esports this time started back out. Clid is still burrowed and starting to chase forward, but gonna step away. G2 open up the base with the Baron, and they've still got that mountain to fall back to if they fancy it.
So SKT take a page out of the G2 book and they decide to attack one of the sides because they know that with 3 lanes pushing into their base, they're guaranteed to lose something. So let's just make the best out of a bad situation and let's try and get a shutdown onto Caps. Let's try and kill this Rise. Unfortunately for SKT, it doesn't go the way that they want.
SKT really want to kill the Mountain Drake as fast as possible because they don't want Elder to spawn at 35 minutes. Actually having this Drake down and forcing another spawn stops there from being an overwhelming win condition, because right now getting out of the base and setting up around an Elder and a Baron, that's too much with how far behind they are.
You're completely right, Papa Smithy. It's a good thing to spot as well, and now we see SKT as they try to get this collapse onto Perks. So the Tom Kench ultimate comes in with the Rise. The Ash Arrow actually collides with the Skarner rather than onto Caps, and you can just see how much damage output Caps actually puts out in this fight. Immediately the double teleport comes out from both Perks and Wonder, and this is when the team fight really kicks off.
But we were waiting for Faker to enter this fight. Remember, still has the Mega Gnar ult, gets a big one, and suddenly you see Ash free hitting that. Okay, this could actually be their undoing. Suddenly, Clid goes way further than expected into the back line, and suddenly Teddy gets no more autos off during the fight.
That Realm Warp was absolutely insane from Caps. The awareness to be able to get out of that situation was very, very quick. But now G2, they have both side lanes pushing in. Their last tower is the mid one.
Faker has stolen himself a chain of corruption. G2 have got a 10,000 gold lead and quickly scan the items. Adaptive Helm for Yankos, Witsend and Phantom Dancer for Wonder. Teddy sitting on the eye edge, Blade of the Ruined King and Hurricane, as well as the Adaptive Helm for Clid. Iceborne Gauntlet sitting for Khan. Those are the power items that these teams are working with, but SK Telecom need to be greater than the sum of their parts, as they are down 10k. They are down super minions, and Wonder is about to gnar out. He will transform shortly. Mickey uses his ultimate as Perks, goes low, gets caught out by the ECA, and here comes Faker. He steps forward. Perks buys some time with a stopwatch, but take a look at Clid. He gets impaled and pulled backwards. Buys some time with a stopwatch of his own. Super minions are inside the base, but not yet on the Nexus, and Wonder's Mega Gnar does not matter. Faker stole himself a Realm Warp, and now he's chasing G2 down. Yankos will get a stun onto Mata, and look at the base. Khan is trying to, Clid is trying to stop Wonder. As all of a sudden, Cap should get run down here. He gets the shield for a few seconds longer. Wonder has pushed the super minions into the base. This is just a fight in every single front.
But it's SKT that managed to hold the line. They find a really big fight onto G2 and they take out Caps and Perks. That means that no Nexus turrets end up going down. They keep their mid inhibitor alive. And with the Baron up, they get an opportunity to reposition and potentially contest.
The clear call would have been, we have to try something. Wonder is literally setting up for a 5-man Gnar ultimate, whether it was on the inhibitor turret or the inhibitor itself. There was a guaranteed engage there. That meant that Wonder was actually out of position for the entire fight and couldn't make any inroads. And now SKT, it's all in time.
It never feels like SK Telecom are out of a game. They've managed to bring themselves into the Baron pit. Look at the minimap. Caps is alive in 7 seconds of TP. Wonder's pushing into the base. Yankos has got Flash available, has got Smite available. He's inside the pit. The Baron is low, but the Devourer is up. It's all of a sudden secured by SK Telecom. Wonder is onto the Nexus turrets with the help of Caps. Khan is here. The teleports are starting to be channeled. Wonder's about to gnar out. He needs to do something magical. Caps gets the shield. The Mega Gnar goes backwards, but it's not going to be enough to save his life. Clid uses the Void Rush. One Nexus turret falls, and SK Telecom are right back in it.
They stand firm just in the single moment where they had to get through. The teleports, if they were cancelled, game will be over, and here's Caps.
All right, he's forced to flash away. Khan's trying to run him down. If he can use those Qs onto minions and use the speed buff, it should work. But look at Klid. He's hunting as well in the borrowed form. Caps does have a lot of movement speed and a shield in his kit, but he's got to play this flawlessly. Klid's coming up. Void Rush. Look at the damage with the tower. That's at least one in reply. Klid donates it to Caps. Caps is able to escape. The Spellbinder plus Phase Rush plus tower. And all of a sudden, Caps is turning it back.
It's actually pinging onto the Victor, excuse me, as they try to look for a play, but that was actually unbelievable from SKT. The split-second decision-making to use the Tahm Kench ultimate to come into the back of the Baron pit, and here you can see Marta with a crisp cleanse to then consume the jungler so that he cannot get into Smite Steal. Means that with the Baron going down, Faker can teleport back to base, and Klid can quickly join it.
Very rarely at 35 minutes is Tahm Kench mechanics something that you point to, but actually, he got a lot done in that scenario. The overall chase doesn't get them a further kill. We did see Klid go down, but SKT are living on a prayer, and that's a few prayers in a row already.
Unbelievable. 35 seconds to the next Drake, then a further 5-ish minutes until the Elder Drake will spawn. That was the delay you talked about, Papa Smithy. That could have been the game-deciding buff for G2, and all of a sudden, that 6k gold lead at 33 minutes feels insignificant.
It's not always intentional, but you could have just backed away and said, okay, what's the point of taking this Drake? Taking it there buys you some breathing room because you just can't defend everywhere, and this is far from defense. SKT finally taking turrets. Remember, they had 0 for the first 30 minutes.
All right, Enchanted Crystal Arrow. This one is going to be targeting on a Caps. If he had started the teleport, that is what that was trying to dissuade. Caps and Wonder are pushing both lanes. The Empowered Recalls, though, is a tool that Faker and SKT choose not to use. Faker steps forward, Chain of Corruption starts to spread. Perks as well as Mickey trying to do what they can. They've dissuaded enough for now. Caps and Wonder, they're pushing in. This is going to be for the final fight.
This is the G2 classic. They never go for conventional when trying to end the game. They're split pushing right now. Rise joins the top side. Here they go.
All right, Abyssal Voyage will deliver Teddy to the back line, but Caps and Wonder are on the Nexus. They will not go quietly. The Nexus is being focused, but look at Faker. Nexus 1 or 2 more hits. Many more hits up. Wonder forces game 5.
That was the play that G2 needed to make to find the final victory. SKT looked so terrifying in those final moments. Faker was playing out of his mind. They found so many successful skirmishes. They took the Baron away from a G2 that was 5,000 gold in the lead. And it was G2 that had to do one of their crazy back doors to end up bringing us to a game 5.
You guys are so used to these. We saw them so
I'm not
often
used to that.
on the domestic stage. The back doors, the 3-lane plays. SKT had the staunchest defense you could ever ask for against G2, and yet there's a 5th game, and the mental state, even of all these seasoned players on both sides, how do you just leave that to one side, reload, and do it all again from level 1?
I absolutely love that. SK Telecom, you think that you're trapped in here, you know, with you think we're trapped in here with you, but it's the other way around.
Yes.
We were born in the Clown Fiesta, but that's not true. It's not entirely true. I think Venice, you said it right. G2 Esports, they do make the bold calls to win games. We've seen it a few times, and it worked out. It gets us to game 5. State Farm analyst is. Tell me exactly how G2 tied up the series.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Quick shot. We're going to game 5, and I can tell you this much. SKT made G2 work for that one there. From mid to the end of the game, it really did take some of that ingenious and creativity out of G2 to ultimately close it out with the double split push from side lanes. Let's take a look at the closing moments.
Yeah, that was the ending here, and we already called it. The moment Faker actually went in and didn't get the perfect Varus ult as an engage to try and get kills, it's over, because the 2 guys in the side lane, they've done this so many times. For some reason, it's always with Ryze. They get these crazy endings, and they stop the recalls. Mata is trying to get his team back, but it's just not enough with the 2 players. Or is it? Because more people are coming into the fountain, but he stays alive.
That drag right there. If it had killed Wonder, it was going to go on. But Wonder survives the laser from the fountain. Gnar ults everyone away to get the last few hits on the Nexus. That was insane.
If you got to go to game 5, that's the way.
I don't want this. I don't like this.
That is the ideal way to go to the 5th game of the series.
Very few players have touched the fountain laser and lived to tell about it. And Wonder is one of them.
And it could be the way that they push themselves to a finals berth. One more win separates each of these teams from that victory and a trip to the MSI Finals. But I think we need to work through this fourth game because, again, it was the closest of the series so far. Yes, G2 had the early lead. Yes, G2 came out with the victory as it has been trending through this series. But we had a couple instances of SKT making some big moves.
And it just means more when Faker is in the game, and he proved it. You cannot give this guy Silas. He is so goddamn good at this champion.
This play is insane here.
He comes in, he steals Wonder's ultimate right here, then he immediately dash flashes into the whole team.
Woo! Into the stun as well, man.
Yeah, talking with Khan right there to get the gravity field up in time. We saw it happen ahead of time. We were like, there's no damage follow-up. They just chunked out 2 members of SKT, and that is almost the game-turning play. At that point, everyone starts to get worried.
Yeah, Faker's like hulking out. I was sweating bullets over here. My heart was beating so fast. And to see then Faker try to make the call, we're going to end the game. I have the Varus ultimate. I'm going to make the engage. Imagine in a different timeline that works. Faker, huge performance.
Oh, yeah, people talking about maybe Faker's falling off now, finally. Not the mid lane god that he once was. He was shutting some people up with the performance in that game. All right, let's talk about G2. Let's start rolling through some more replays because ultimately they will be the ones to take this victory.
We have a secret weapon now from the West in this tournament. It's Skarner, because it's locked in by Jankos against the rek'sai. This time he can control it. He's part of all the early kills. And I know this is obviously Teddy TPing.
I thought you were going to say your secret weapon is Teddy's teleport.
That's the second one, but we don't talk about that one. That was a terrible TP. He got punished for it. Jankos, early game was great, sets up G2 to snowball. They actually played really well when they got all these early leads, like we've seen in game 2.
The 4 Drakes came up big here. Double Ocean plus a mountain around this Baron, and then Wonder's going to come up with his own big Gnarl, just the same as Faker.
Yeah,
forgot about him. Completely forgot about him.
I can't. This game was too intense for me. Everything back and forth. I do like the fact that you were praising Jankos. And even though this is, team fights from Jankos, you mentioned it earlier, he was everywhere on the map. He set up every single lane. He got multiple flashes burned. And he really got the success started for G2. And it holds true for this entire series. Whoever has the early game lead wins the game.
Without a doubt. One more replay to take a look at, just because there was so much amazing action in this game. Here we go. Base defense for SKT.
This is such a close moment, man. They rush out to get the Baron after defending. They were holding on for so long, and we thought now maybe G2 can finish, but Khan early recalled, which was very smart. So he stops Caps, obviously, from hitting the turret with Wonder. They get to them, force them away. Again, G2 have to find more ways to finish the game. And I actually liked the fact that we got such a close fourth game, that G2 still managed to win because they still had the lead for the entire game, and they still had all the options to split push, or even actually they could still 5v5 as well to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, I just really wanted to focus on Jankos and Caps. The Rise and the Skarner, to me, were the 2 most critical parts of G2's victory here. Really well played. You mentioned in the early game, blowing the flashes, then returning with the Predator. This is one of the few times, where the enemy jungler has outpaced Clid. Clid was waiting there for the counter gank. He misses the timing. Jankos heads immediately back up there. He's able to get that snowball going. And the Rise he talked about at the beginning of the day, in the hands of Caps here, with the Realm Warps able to follow.
Well, we've seen successes from both teams in 2 different games. We're going to game 5. SKT with side selection goes to blue. No shocker there. Those are the teams that have been winning. How does G2, and likewise for SKT, recapture their success? For G2, is it just the Skarner? Is it finding, the simplicity in picks and plays like that?
I don't think it's necessarily about Skarner. I think it's more so about early game. I don't think we're going to see another draft from G2 where they have multiple scaling options and not necessarily lost lanes, but just kind of passive lanes. I think they're going to play for blood here, play for tempo.
Lanes where you have set up with your jungler, so you can have really good 1v1s, 2v2s when the jungler shows up. Same thing will happen on the SKT side. You can't just forfeit instantly the moment you see a rek'sai coming towards you. You need to have a jungler there who can actually fight back, so you can at least go even in that early game. And I think that's key. If they give rek'sai, they're probably going to pick Skarner in first phase, otherwise it gets banned for second.
Smartest thing that he has said all day long. Get Wonder and Caps.
In the last 5 minutes, come on, give me that at least.
Wonder and Caps, some champions with playmaking abilities.
Okay.
Those 2 are insane. And if if they have champs that can set up, Jankos is definitely showing up today.
It does sound like, though, the theme of the day has been about the junglers for both squads. Yes, in tandem with those laners to see who can set up their team with the greatest possible gold lead coming out of the early game.
Yeah.
They're already preparing. They are clenching.
Maybe I don't even need these people here. Maybe I could do this all by myself.
agreed
Up
with you.
next, it's
What
game
more do you
5,
want?
and I shouldn't have to say anything else. Cue the Silver Scrapes. We'll see you here after the break.
Clit is delivered with Mata into the bottom lane. No flash for Perks. Chain of Corruption's on cooldown as well, and with the Devour, as well as the Void Rush, it's easy. That was such a beautiful setup. Not in range, may not matter anyway. Mata doesn't have flash available. He's the next target. Impale brings the Catfish backwards. 5 members of G2 trying to push forward, but the minion wave is getting obliterated. Oh! Massive! Manages to steal the Gnar. Faker turns around. He hijacks G2's chances.
Wait, Ash on TP.
I can flash R.
Yeah. Nice.
There was here's now.
Wick no more.
Wonder's about to gnaw out. He needs to do something magical. Caps gets the shield. The Mega Gnar goes backwards, but it's not going to be enough to save his life. They will not go quietly. The Nexus is being focused, but look at Faker. Nexus 1 or 2 more hits. Mega Gnar on top. Wonder forces game 5.